Today we're hitting Total War Warhammer 3 on Playkey. Will we conquer our demons, or will the demons conquer us? I'm Little Quick, and welcome to Cloud Gaming Battle.
Your destiny is to guide us.
You must face these demons.
Total War Warhammer 3 continues to be a requested game from cloud gamers. As the Total War franchise animates thousands of fighters in incredible detail, clashing in large, gorgeous battlefields, it's not surprising that it can be one of the most demanding games on a system's hardware. With the game only recently released, there's still a lot of folks looking to discover the best way to play on the cloud. Playkey has many pre-installed games that are ready to go as soon as you log into their website, but unlike other services, they allow you to install any game you'd like on their servers. So with Total War Warhammer 3 unsupported on curated websites, we decided to use this installation feature and give it a go. But Little Quick, didn't you do a Total War Warhammer 3 on Boosteroid video? Good memory, Cloud Warrior. I have. But as we discovered there, the game was not running correctly. It has been subsequently removed from Boosteroid's lineup. The first thing we need to do is install the game. At over 100 gigabytes, this isn't going to be quick. Unless you're shelling out for a monthly sub, Playkey is paid for by the minute, so this installation is not only a long process, but you'll be paying for the time as well. We're also going to check out what kind of PC we get when we connect to Playkey's servers. As we found out in our Playkey benchmark video, Playkey assigns hardware to you based on what kind of game you choose to play, which makes sense, because CSGO doesn't need as much power as Cyberpunk. Since we're loading up Steam and installing from there, it doesn't have anything to go off of and we could be getting anything. The million-dollar question will be, will we have to reinstall every time we start a new session? I'll find out after this session because I'm too afraid to check now and potentially have to wait another hour to get going. It looks like we got a Tesla M60 as our graphics card with a reasonable amount of RAM. Most of our viewers might be familiar with card performance of the GTX and RTX series, so I'm going to compare performance to these cards. A quick shout out to techpowerup.com, who I'm sourcing for relative GPU power levels. The Tesla M60 was released in 2015 and is somewhere around the performance of a GTX 970, 66% as powerful as a GTX 1070, and around a quarter of the performance of an RTX 3080. These are relative numbers and don't equate exactly, so take them with a grain of salt. After I load the game up, I notice the menu is acting somewhat unresponsive. I kind of have to wiggle the cursor over a button before it notices. I check to see if the cursor displacement bug is going on, but it's not. Something else is awry. So we run the benchmark at the recommended settings of, Ultra? Okay, Creative Assembly. The results are abysmal. I tried dropping the settings to medium and low to see how it ran. We do get perfect 60 FPS on low, but the battles look like sad affairs where the invitees decided not to show up. My camera is also doing weird things I had never seen it do at the end of these benchmarks. Earmark that, because we're coming back to it. So for gameplay, I decided to go the middle road, take medium settings, and eat the 30 to 40 FPS gameplay, rather than go for the 60 frames per second I could get on the sad low unit size, or the awful 10 to 20 frames per second of the higher settings. Once I get into the game, those weird menu bugs prove not to be menu bugs at all. The strange camera wobbling at the end of my benchmarks is the result of some crazy cursor malfunctions. Playkey suggests toggling the hardware cursor feature in their settings, Ctrl F2, in order to help remedy this, but I was not having much luck. This problem is making the game nearly unplayable. I'm unable to maintain camera control. My clicks are not always registering, and I'm frustrated trying to control my armies. There's no fun to be had here. I'm sorry, Miao Ying. Your general sucks. None of Playkey's hardware is near me in Ohio in the United States, and therefore my latency is not the best. Your latency will be better if you're near one of the server locations. Total War is not normally won or lost based on split-second reactions, but usually on smart strategy, clever troop movements, and army composition. Because of this, I wasn't worried that the poor latency would ruin the gameplay, because I had such latency with Boosteroid when I could play, and it went well. However, none of this matters with the borked controls. Next, I play a multiplayer game with a random player to see if Playkey shares Boosteroid's strange UI lockup that happens in multiplayer lobbies. It doesn't, and multiplayer works as it should. However, without the ability to control my troops effectively, I opt to play the king of right-click warfare, Khorne, and hope for a miracle. After receiving a thorough spanking from the mysterious and powerful Mr. Skeleton and his army of ogres, I end my session and perform a few more tests. The first and most important one, the million-dollar question from earlier. Do we have to reinstall Total War every time? Yes. Yes, you do. The inconvenience of the install is basically a death sentence to playing any larger games. Not to mention the hardware lottery you're entered into every time you restart the application. Playkey's install any game feature isn't looking great unless the size is quite small on these games. When loading up Steam on Playkey to install again, I randomed the following hardware after the M60. An acceptable GTX 1080 Ti and an excellent Tesla T4. Barring control issues, both of these cards would have produced better FPS and performance. So then I'm a little concerned that my control issues might be some kind of latency problem. So I load up No Man's Sky to see if I have mouse lag on their menus or camera issues when moving their camera around in the third person. Both control features of No Man's Sky used for testing purposes work well with no issues. These control issues seem specific to Total War Warhammer 3. With Total War Warhammer 3 on Playkey, the verdict is not recommended. Playkey has some impressive hardware if they deign to let you use it, but the long install time that must be done every session, the hardware lottery, and most of all, the control issues make the whole experience one that I'm not going to repeat. The game doesn't have the bugs that, say, Boosteroid had, but it does have a worse one. And if you must play Total War on Playkey, I recommend setting aside a lot of time and playing the hardware lottery over and over again until you get a minimum of a GTX 1070 or better. No Man's Sky loaded with an RTX 2070 Super, by the way. Maybe a workaround would be to load up a game like that and then trying to install Warhammer 3 after you know you have good specs to work with. But it's a better idea to just not use Playkey at all for Warhammer 3 unless they make it one of the supported games in the future. If you liked the video, give us some love. Drop comments and questions below, and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest news, reviews, tips, and comparisons on cloud gaming, including Playkey. Keep it tuned here to the only place you can do battle in gaming heaven, Cloud Gaming Battle. Little Quick, signing out.